Next up, we have a compliance advisor with Provision Analytics, helping food safety managers streamline their food safety program to become audit ready at any time. With a bachelor's in food science and nutrition from the University of Alberta, he has over 8 years of experience in the food industry. Please welcome Amodh Arora with his presentation, Preventive Action, Avoiding the Top 5 Operator Errors.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John, for the introduction. Hope everybody's having a great focus day so far. It's nice to see so many attendants in the participants today. So I'm really excited to be sharing my presentation with you guys. Lots of topics today on recall prevention, and just avoiding errors. So I thought I'd showcase a little bit about what we do at Provision and how we're helping food safety team members be able to tackle that, be able to handle that, and give them the resources they need for success. So I'm just going to share my screen here. John, I'm just trying to lean on you for a visual just so that it's up and running.
It is good to go.
Perfect. Awesome. So just jumping in here, guys, wanted to showcase just some audit data that we've collected in 2022. This was presented by the lovely Tammy Van Buren at SQF. She is a technical expert at SQF and she manages their code. So instead of delving into each one of these findings, as you guys can see here, I've shown the major and the minor findings. I wanted to kind of summarize them into the top 5. And what we see when we take a deeper dive is that pest documentation tends to be overlooked. The third-party records are usually missing. There's no evidence of traps being checked. This tends to be one of the most common takeaways in terms of errors that we find from the audits. Internal audits themselves tend to get missed. They're either forgotten entirely or they're poorly documented. So I'll be showing you kind of ways on how we tackle some of these findings. CCPs need better monitoring, which is really crucial. CCPs being critical control points, for those that know this, having missing these in audits are going to be big points when we miss them in our audit. So they're preventative ways. We talked a lot in some of the earlier presentations about preventative measures. That's usually the best form of defense we have, rather than taking action after the fact. We want to be able to take preventative action to make sure that doesn't happen. So I'll be showing you how our tool itself is a preventative action. Leaders needing to get more involved. This is also a recurring topic throughout all our presenters today. Giving better tools for our leaders, I think, is a way we can get leaders more involved. Some of our other speakers had great points on making sure we hit home how important food safety culture is. So I just want to reiterate that exact same sentiment as well. Getting our team involved, making sure our leaders are bought in, is one of the key ways we can really enforce food safety at our site, not only at a site level, but even when they take that information home with them. Promoting food safety culture overall as a society, I think, is more important than even just our site alone, and that will keep coming along as we reiterate these points. So jumping into the next slide here, what's causing these consistent issues across the almost 12,000 SQF sites that are certified? One of the most important is, or one of the most common is, actually language barriers. I used to work at an SQF site out of Vancouver, British Columbia. I used to work for a company called the Very Good Butchers, and we managed SQF at that site. So most of my operators, I'd say about 80%, were English as a second language. So when we did present our trainings, our SOPs, our records to them, we did a lot of head nodding, so we think that they're understanding, but still at the end of the day, we do get, errors, we get non-compliances, we get missing fields. I saw typos in one of the questions. How do we eliminate typos? That was something that I was chasing day in and day out. Could you fix this? Could you just sign this? Could you just date this? Simple things that I need chasing, just because maybe they didn't understand the format. So I'll dive into how we solve that with Provision. Couple of the others here, CCP breaches are buried in paper. So then when we talk about pen and paper, it's really not our best form of data collection. It can get messy, like I talked about, human errors. So we want to be able to better tackle this and understand what tools do we have to be able to get past this. So the root cause, oh, my watch going off, sorry about that. So one of the things I wanted to address is the root cause is it's important to understand that majority of our SQF managers are in fact compliant. The process leading to compliance, however, is usually really stressful because there's lots of people that we have to manage. There's also lots of data that we have to manage, tons of records, ongoing daily, weekly, annual that we need to consistently manage, and it leaves our managers feeling overwhelmed. So imagine if we had one manager overseeing dozens of operators and then hundreds of records on any given shift. The real challenge really lies in the lack of resources available for these managers that are dedicated on and off on our shifts to make sure that things are being done right. A lot of you guys can probably agree that it's not an easy job. Our job is usually taken for granted. As a food safety manager, we are one of the most crucial lines of defense when it comes to our production sites. So give yourselves a pat on the back, but also know that we're all in the same boat. It is a stressful challenge. So if we can add tools to our arsenal to really amplify our work, I think it's worth looking into. And all of this comes down to, if hiring isn't going to be the solution in terms of adding more resources, if you can't hire more employees, then we have to evolve and get better resources to be able to address these issues. So all of this comes down to what Preventive is. Preventive is a technological solution, and a lot of people talk about technology being, too complex. There's IT setups, and it's not affordable for us. We're a small company. We can't afford technology. How do we implement technology into our sites to be able to handle all of these problems, but also make it cost effective? So there are several great tools available on the market. We've observed that a lot of the tools out there in terms of software are really specific to company sizes. And those tools are designed for the mega corporations, the Coca-Colas, the Nestle's. What we've done at Preventive is really build a backend so that it is applicable to any company size, especially the mid-market. And as a result, a lot of the SQF sites that we've been working with have been transitioning off of paper-based systems and onto technological-based systems. So I'm going to dive into not only just a little bit of background on us. I have a slideshow that I'm going through obviously right now, but part of my presentation today is actually showing you a demo of Preventive, being able to take you through behind the scenes as to what our platform looks like, and giving you a little bit of imagination as to how your records could look like on our platform as well. So just a little bit about us at Preventive. We started back in 2018. Our CEO, Eric Westblom, had joined a Maersk food track, which is one of their it was an experience where they had 500 different companies that they could apply for. We were one of 12, I think, applicants that made the cut to be able to work with Maersk and tackle supply chain issues that they were working on. And basically, our experience with Maersk taught us that the vital importance of usability and flexibility of software was key. And instead of solely concentrating on big companies, we should focus mainly on the mid-market sector, which makes up most of our food manufacturers today. At the end of the day, the number one factor for success that we've seen in software is usability. If the solution isn't designed to be intuitive and user-friendly like ours is, then people are still going to stick to paper. It has to be easier than paper for people to move towards software. So we've gathered quotes. What you see here are quotes from the agriculture sector. About, I'd say, 40 to 50% of our customers are in the agriculture sector, which makes up usually the most difficult sector, or the last adoptable sector in terms of transitioning towards technology. So it really just shows, since they're the last adopters of new technology, it really demonstrates our ability to handle like the most challenging scenarios or the worst case scenarios. If they're really adopting it, I think we can really make a big impact with manufacturers as well, which we have been. And then the solution here, don't mean to pump my own tires too much, but a couple of key benefits of transitioning over to a software is just the ability to now have access to all these resources. With usability and adoption, there's a myriad of benefits that follow. Translation capabilities for clear communication. We have SOPs empowering staff with real-time instructions instead of having to unscrub or undress, go into the TUA manager's office, open the book for SOPs, understand the SOP, go back on the floor. We can just have them in real time attached to the form digitally on a tablet. This leads to fewer mistakes, there's no guesswork, and tasks can be organized as one time. Now, recurring, or they can be automated workflows. So if you have a system or process that happens day after day, we have daily workflows, we have weekly workflows, those you can schedule out within our platform so that Provision is doing the lead work and reminding you and reminding your team when they need to be doing things. We also have built-in escalation protocols for CCPs over here, our escalations and alerts. So we have, however your process is at your facility, if paper gets passed on from a sanitation member to a sanitation manager, from there it goes to the food safety manager, and there's a verification process at each one of those steps. Whatever you're doing on paper today, we can also mimic on a digital platform as well. So you're not really losing that change, or sorry, you're not changing as much as you think you would. That change management piece is something that we've been asked about countless times. How are we going to transition? We do things this way. How are we going to do it digitally? We've done our best to really mimic what you're doing on paper, but just make it digital and give you all the benefits of, catching errors, catching mistakes, eliminating typos, and scheduling things on an ongoing basis. Really taking your platform from paper-based to electronic-based. So with that, that's kind of the end of my presentation in terms of slides. I'm going to start jumping into the demo. I know there's going to be some questions that are going to come up. Please feel free to pop them into the Q&A, and I'll tackle them all at the end of the demo. And if we have some extra time, which I imagine we will, I'll be able to jump into each one of those questions either via the demo itself or just by communication. So I'm now going to exit out of this presentation. And John, I'm going to lean on you one more time just to make sure my screen is still sharing here. You can see the platform itself.
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, John. So with that, guys, everybody, welcome to Provision. When you first log in, you're going to see a screen very, very similar to what you see in front of you. Going through very quickly, drawing your attention to the left-hand side of the screen, we have our core main modules. We have our tasks, our forms, our reports, our resources, and our settings. Quick call out here is that Provision is device agnostic. So you can use any device. It doesn't have to be an iPad or Apple device. It can be, Samsung, Apple, old gen, new generation. As long as it's a smart device and it's not one of those Nokia bricks, you should be good to go. And as long as you have access to the internet connectivity, you also should be good to log in from anywhere. So now jumping in quickly into tasks, mainly want to touch on how when you're logged in as a manager, you get oversight into everybody's tasks. I can see all my employees, what forms they're in charge of, what the due date is. We can also simplify this so that if you're logged in simply as, Amodh, the sanitation crew member, once I log in, I just can see my individual tasks. Right now I'm logged in as a manager, so I can see, my reviewers have an internal audit that's due today, and my sanitation team has a pre-op inspection due today. Really simple checklist, and I know exactly what's scheduled for the day. If any of these tasks go past our due date, they get automatically categorized into the overdue category, and managers also get alerted. Clearly, I haven't been doing a great job. I have over 2,000 items here. Please ignore that. This is just a demo. This is not an actual manufacturing site. But whenever something does go into an overdue category, you're now alerted that something was missed. You know who missed it, what the form was missed, and you can follow up right away. So a lot of this is eliminating the guesswork that we tend to have with paper-based systems, is just us remembering or using phones or sticky notes or a whiteboard somewhere, having to rely on those manual processes. It's not reliable. It works in some cases, and I'm not denying I've done them before in the past, but having transitioned to technology has now made it so that I can't go back to manual processes. So I hope that I can convince that you guys can see the same with technology. Now, all of these tasks can also be scheduled out pretty easily. Opening a new task is really, really simple to do. I'm going to show you a pre-op inspection today. So I'm going to show you how I schedule a task. You can assign them to teams of people or individuals. So up to you to choose who you want to schedule this out to. I'm just going to schedule this out to myself. I'll make the due date today just for today's presentation. Let's make it tomorrow for today's presentation and make it a one-time task. But as I was talking about in my presentation, you can make this recurring. So you can choose to have this task repeat. If you do pre-ops every single day, you can have this repeat every single day in perpetuity. Well, almost up to 2 years, you can have this continuously just repeat. And Provision will just send the legwork of sending reminders when things need to be done. You also have flexibility on these tasks. So if you run production Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or you run a certain SKU Monday, Wednesday, Fridays for certain forms, you can schedule them at your cadence. So it's meant to be flexible. It's meant to, again, fit into your program so that you can schedule what you need to ahead of time and you're spending less time remembering to do that task. So for today, I'm just going to make this a one-time task to show you what that looks like. I'm going to assign this task. Notifications come one of two ways. They can come within the application here, where I can see I've assigned myself a pre-op inspection that's due tomorrow. The other way we can get notifications is via email. So if you have email reminders turned on, then your staff can get email alerts, and then as long as they click on the notification, it takes them directly into the form that they need to complete. So this is great. I'm now showing you a pre-op inspection form. I was assigned the form. I clicked on it. I was notified. I clicked on the form, and now it's taking me right into the form that my manager has asked me to complete. Right away, date and time, auto-populated. That's awesome. I don't have to chase for that anymore. I'm telling you from experience, guys, I had to chase for just this date and time alone, countless of times. I can't even count how many times I've had to ask somebody to just date and time it, date and time it. Please just date and time it. So now that's auto-populated based on my date and time. QC person's name we can auto-populate if you want. Otherwise, we can leave it blank and then have someone fill it out as they need to. Completely up to you. Also, you can see that this is flagged red when something is required. Anytime you see a little asterisk somewhere, that means we've made this required on the form to be filled out. So now gone are the days of having to chase someone to get something done. You could make the whole form required so that someone can't submit a record to you as a manager without them having to complete all the required fields. So it's almost like having a mini food safety manager kind of looking over the shoulder of everybody on your site, just making sure that those forms are really being done. This is what we call guardrails on the form. So you can set guardrails however you'd like. So in this case, I need to make sure I populate this. I'm putting in my name, and now I'm going right into the inspection. You can see here I have little tool tips. There were some questions throughout the focus day today on how do we train, how do we educate, how do we make sure that they're constantly on top of the program. So not only can we embed little tool tips, which can be any instructions or protocols that you guys have in place, but we also have a documentation tab up here, which can embed SOPs. So here's an attached floor sanitation SOP. There's a washing hands SOP. So any graphics, any PDF files that you want, constantly attach to this form so it's easy to reference for the user. They can access it at any time and then go back to the form and then start working at it. They don't have to now go off the floor. Like I said, look for that SOP and then start filling it out. So I'm going through my inspection, I'm checking a bunch of yeses, just like we would on paper. But let's say, for example, I reach my floors in the production area, and let's say I caught a deviation. So I'm going to check off no here. Right away, I don't know if you guys caught that, but a corrective action bubble appeared right as soon as my deviation occurred. Corrective action has been a theme for today's discussions. So how are we catching this? How are we making sure that it's being addressed and filled out? This is what we can do, and we can mandate within our forms. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling out the rest of this form. And let's say I'm going to miss this last form on purpose. I'm a deviant sanitation employee. I'm clearly a problem child. So I'm going to try and pull a fast one on my manager and say, oh yeah, I've done my record. I'm going to try and hit submit and push this to my manager for review. The moment I click on that, it's going to say, hold on, Amodh. You can't send this to your manager just quite yet. You have to fill all the forms rules. And now this is catching, anything that's either been missed or not filled out that needs to be required. It's now shown in red. So it's really clear I missed this field, so I have to fill this out. If something else was also deviant, it auto-populates another field down below. So we can capture this information relatively easily, and almost everything you see on this form is customizable. So if you want it set so that it shows standard number, corrective action observed, and then you want another column to show who the employee was that was monitoring this or was deviant, or you want to show a corrective action number, how many times a corrective action occurred, you can have that populated. And if you wanted this corrective action observed to be a drop-down menu instead, so that you had lists depending on what was out of conformance. So if floors were out of conformance, your drop down would be, floors were swept but not mopped, and et cetera, et cetera. And if your walls were out of spec, it would say, walls were not clean, et cetera, et cetera. So we can pre-populate drop-down menus for you so that it makes it, again, easier for your users. They don't have to write out or type out the non-conformance. They can select from a drop-down that fits the corrective action that needs to be performed. Up to you guys. At the end of the day, we suit your process. So over here, I can say floors were swept, but not mopped. And now I can save this comment directly in my form. And it's also tallying my number of non-conformances, which is important for analytics later on. I won't dive too much into that today. If you're curious about how all of this can dive into analytics and being able to understand your gaps in your plant, feel free to contact me after, and I can go more in depth with a demo afterwards. So now that I've satisfied all the fields here, I can move into submitting this out for review. And now it goes to my manager. They get alerted that, hey, Amodh's completed this sanitation record. Now it's ready for review. So they did a task that they need to review. And right here, you can see I'm part of the manager's team. So I'm getting this notification. Here's that pre-op inspection as a task that I need to complete. Alternatively, we have our forms module, which also has a review section here. Not to confuse you guys, but what this forms module is essentially your entire SQF program. So common questions we get asked is, hey, I have an SQF program. I understand that some forms need to be scheduled daily, but I don't have to schedule everything, do I? Like, can I open a form at any time? And the answer to that is yes. You can open a form on a whim at any point in time. You don't have to schedule everything out. We just recommend scheduling just so that it keeps things organized, it keeps things neat, and you get notifications. But you need to open up a form at any point in time. It's really easy for you to select on any one of your forms, and you can jump into any other record. In this case, my next example is going to be a water sampling record. So here I'm going to jump into this water sampling record. You can see the form, again, sample date, auto-populated, sample location. This is what we like to call resources. So this is static information about your company that really helps pre-populate these dropdowns with your business items. So your cooler locations, your fridge locations, your production line locations, we can populate these lists so that, again, it's customized to your business. So in this case, I'm just going to say manufacturing site 1. And now I am doing the test. So it's me. And now you can see we're doing a quality style form. So I've showed you a sanitation style form. This is a quality style form. Really, we can specify whether it's food safety, whether it's maintenance records, whether it's safety or health and safety, any kind of paper-based form that's part of your food safety program and beyond. We can digitize and really make it easier for you guys to fill out and capture that data. So I'm working on this water test. I can see here in my tooltip that my maximum desired level is 200 milligrams. You can see if I enter 150, my results show pass. I can sign off and start moving on to the next step. The moment I put 1500, you can see right away my screen immediately changed. I'm going to do that one more time for an instant replay for you guys. So the moment I put this extra zero here, 1500, which is just way beyond our limits, results show a fail. I got a big red message that says this is outside the critical limits. You got to submit for a retest. I can do the rest of these just to make sure that this is all passing. And now I have to submit for a retest. So what does this mean? I can hit the submit button. I have a separate workflow designed for my quality records so that if something is out of spec, I have to push this out for hold and retest option. So this enforces my crew members to hit this button. It goes to my manager. They also get alerted, hey, you got to hold and retest. You got to double check that chlorine level. So I can go into this. I have a whole separate workflow built for that. Populates here for my manager to review. And now they can jump in and start analyzing what Amodh was testing. And he sees that there's a 1500 level on the chlorine. He can go down and say, all right, I'm manager A, I'm coming in to work on this form. I retested the chlorine and I too found that it was 1500. So right away, another option pops up. So we can customize these records so that based on your answers, certain fields can pop up. And today's topics were on root cause analysis and corrective action. So I really wanted to drill home this form because now we have an option here to capture this information right away. It's now asking us, the 5 whys is completed by manager A. Jeff was just talking about this on the last presentation. So this seamlessly transitions really well here. I can now start capturing my 5 whys and start adding my reasoning. So right on the form. In a paper-based process, we have to remember to do this. We have to, with so many other things going on, it's really easy for this to be missed or to be incomplete or for us to work on it and then get distracted and move on to something else. This really enforces us to complete this right here, right now. And it's important that we do for the business, but it's also important that we do this just for our own, in terms of being able to get these 5 whys in and out so that our KPIs are done, we've done the work that we need to do, and we can move on to the next task. We don't have to shuffle around and decide between which task is more important. We right away get to finish this item right away. Now going down, signature panels for when things are signed off. And again, we can push this out and move this to the next workflow. So really, I wanted to give you guys a couple of different examples. One was a sanitation style. The other is as a quality style, mainly meant to show you guys the different, how we can customize these records, how flexible these records can be. I did mention in my slides the ability to translate. So that might be a common question that might be coming up. So let's open up that pre-op again for you guys. And I want to show you that our forms themselves or the entire program itself can be hard-coded in either English, Spanish, or French. But we also have the ability to upload the data in any language you want. So if you've already built your records in English and Spanish, or English and say Ukrainian, and you want to upload them, you can upload them in those languages. Our program fully supports it. Otherwise, we also have a live translation piece. So we seamlessly integrate with Google Translate here. This is really key when I saw this, the ability to now translate and mirror this entire page into, say, Punjabi, for example. I'm going to pull Punjabi here. That was most of my operators when I was working in the manufacturing plant was Punjabi, as I said, as the first language. So now going through it, they can see this entire pre-op in Punjabi, and now it's just a mirror. It makes it a lot easier to interpret these records. It doesn't actually change the original. The original is still in English, but now they can see these records in their native tongue. It now allows them, it empowers them to actually fill in the right information, accurate information, and it doesn't give them that fear of reporting mistakes because, again, they see it in their own language. A lot of these mistakes we can enforce with the platform itself. So that question about, there's fear with temporary workers on reporting these mistakes. This we can eliminate by just enforcing it on the form itself. It's almost like that's part of the day-to-day activity is whenever something goes wrong, it'll auto show that, hey, there's a mistake here, just enter in the mistake, it'll go to the manager, no problem. You don't even have to really address it, run to the manager and say, hey, something went wrong. There's that fear, and that's a very valid question that temporary workers don't really like to address that with managers because fear of backlash or retaliation. If the system is just doing it for them in terms of, letting the manager know that something went wrong, then it really eliminates and takes down that fear tenfold. So I wanted to showcase that translation piece. And I think besides that, that really covers most of what I wanted to show in terms of forms and tasks. Otherwise, we have reports that can be built as well. There's a reporting module within Provision. This allows food safety managers to compile this information and analyze this information. So here we have, let's say, the water sampling form we were working on. I can tabulate this into results. So I can quickly see my sample date, my sample location, the chlorine level, and the results. And this is, again, really simple information, but it's just a summarized version of all my data that I've been collecting over time. I can filter this report to now show me just my failures. So I can select fail under the results, and now it's going to filter all my results and show me all the failures. And as a manager, if I have now all this extra time, not chasing, not making sure things are being done, I have a few more minutes per record, really, that I can now allocate to diving into my data and diving into what the trending results are and where can I analyze my gaps and where can I improve my SOPs so that these don't happen again. I now have that extra time to do that, and these reports make it a little bit more simpler than just paper records and having to do that data entry yourself on Excel, which I hear countless times. I don't mean to exaggerate, but really, I hear it from food safety managers every day that, hey, I do everything on paper. I chase everybody to make sure it gets done. When it gets done, I spend a lot of hours after the fact, typing it into Excel so I have some sort of data. And then I spend some time, creating charts and all that to be able to analyze, but it takes me a lot more time. Like I said earlier, I'm not saying that SQF managers aren't compliant today. A lot of you guys are, but it's with a lot of hard work, a lot of stress, a lot of, chasing to make sure that things get done. If we can give you guys tools to really alleviate that stress and that hard work and give you more time to be able to analyze, which I think at the end of the day is going to be best case scenario for everybody. Then you can analyze your results, improve your processes, spend less time doing recalls, more time on preventative actions, and then you have a safer work environment. And food safety culture is ushered throughout this entire software. Getting everybody on board is something we help training with. We ensure that every manufacturing site that we onboard is comfortable with the platform. We walk you guys through the platform. We stay with you guys for about a month to make sure that everyone's comfortable with this training, and that's key for any business to have success. Like I said, is usability and adoptability. So wanted to showcase a couple of features there, showcase the demo a little bit, give you guys a little glimpse into what the world of provision is all about. And again, transitioning to technology, I know it doesn't seem like the easiest solution, but in some cases, it could be what's needed with all the changes in regulation, addendums, customer addendums, FSMA 204 coming out soon for those in the produce world or fresh cut produce world. That's going to be a big factor. So little things here and there that really empower us to tighten up our food safety program. And if there's any tools out there that can help us, I know I could have used it back in my day. I joke that I don't have hair anymore because of SQF. So I'm wagging my finger that I used to stress way, way back in the day when I was doing SQF program management. And during audits, I used to be stressed out of my mind. I prepared for 2 weeks with paper documents, and now I don't have hair because of that. So for all of you food safety managers in the crowd that still have a head of hair, you're still doing okay. You're still doing okay. But yeah, with that, I'll open the floor. I know I'm a little early, but I wanted to open the floor for some questions. And yeah, we can go from there.
Excellent. Thank you, Amodh, for that overview of how technological solutions can be implemented to help companies solve their everyday problems. We do have a couple of questions that have come in for you. The first one, for English as a second language, what led to your wins once your team started using various languages in the communication?
That's a great question. So for English as a second language, what led to the wins? Really, if you empower the food safety manager to, again, adopt new systems and be able to use these tools to, again, showcase your records in other languages, that itself is a win. The win being that if they can see their records in other languages, that is, like I said, that's the win there. Now they see it in their native tongue. They can understand the information a lot more clearly because it's their language. And especially if the manager themselves is also English as a second language and the team members are, it's the same language between manager and operator, we can see that this becomes a big win in terms of communication, in terms of understanding, and in terms of compliance.
Excellent. Next question, can you upload a PDF form to be filled out through the software?
Great question. You cannot upload a PDF form to be filled out, but what we do at Provision is if there's a type of record or PDF record that you want filled out, we would just develop that into a form for you. So anything you've seen, the water sampling record, the FSE, the pre-op inspections, if you have a similar type of record that's in a PDF format, we just digitize that for you in Provision to be a fillable record. You can attach PDFs, however, if let's say you're doing, let's say third-party lab results and you want to attach those into the record, you can attach PDFs.
Okay, great. Last question, are employees' comments also automatically translated? For example, Spanish into English?
Yep. So if an employee leaves a comment, they use the Google Translate function. It'll translate those comments into English. Yes, that's correct. I did see one other comment as well about pictures being added. Pictures can be added as attachments along with PDFs. So if you're on the floor, you're on a manufacturing line, you noticed something was wrong in terms of quality aspect, you can use a rear-facing camera, take pictures, and upload them directly to the form itself.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for the questions, everybody.